The Boston Red Sox could not have picked a worse time to go ice cold. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and we were on a pretty good streak there of videos where there were really positive outcomes for these Red Sox series. Unfortunately, that streak ends today because the Boston Red Sox just dropped 2 out of 3 games to the Oakland Athletics, and it came at a really concerning time and in a really concerning way. The Boston Red Sox had all the chances in the world to come back into these games and take this series, and they simply could not get the job done. On top of that, too, it's right in the midst of the Red Sox trying to fight to be buyers at the MLB deadline. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this latest Red Sox series. We're going to talk about what went wrong, how that could impact the team going forward. We're going to talk about the few things that did go right because there were some positives in this series, and we are going to talk about how this series could affect the rest of the 2023 season. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, don't forget, we are going to be live tonight on this channel right around 7 p.m. There is no game tonight, so we are going to be talking about some Red Sox hot stove topics, roster crunches, trade prospects, the future of the Red Sox 2023 season. Anything you guys want to talk about, we will be talking about tonight again at 7 p.m. Eastern. Anyways, thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. As always, let's start by talking about the offense first, which started this series off really hot, right? They scored 7 runs in the first game, and it felt like their offensive prowess, the hot streak they've been riding offensively, was going to continue. But unfortunately, after the first game, the Red Sox offense really kind of fell silent. But the one constant that remains in this Red Sox lineup, despite how they are doing, it feels like every single time, is Justin Turner. Because in this series, Justin Turner was able to extend his hit streak to 13 games. He also had 5 RBIs in this series as well as a home run. With so many peaks and valleys this year offensively, Justin Turner has stayed steady and consistent and good through every single one of them. He has been one of the most impressive pickups of this offseason in all of Major League Baseball, and he's a guy who has been vital for the Boston Red Sox throughout the entirety of 2023. Another guy who had a pretty good series despite the offense being quiet is Connor Wong, who in the first game had 3 RBIs and went 3 for 4. And in the last game, he had 2 walks and scored a run. He's been really hot at the plate kind of quietly for the Red Sox lately. Over this last month, he has hit 343 in July with an 826 OPS. Again, we talk about it all the time. If the Red Sox want to be consistently good at the plate, they need to get production from guys outside of their core, sort of middle of the lineup type players, and Connor Wong is doing exactly that, despite the rest of the team sort of going silent. One more guy that had a fairly decent series was Masataka Yoshida, who went 4 for 13, which may not sound very good because it isn't a crazy stat line or anything, but Masa is coming out of this series 3rd in the AL for batting average, only 3 points behind Yandy Diaz, so Masa is officially on batting title watch. But outside of those guys who had fairly decent performances in this series, the rest of the offense was pretty quiet, right? We talk about this all the time, but what's the theme of the 2023 season? It's the fact that the Red Sox live or die by their offense, and in this series, they just simply could not make it out alive. There were a lot of bad at-bats in this series in general. Guys swinging on 3 straight pitches, a first pitch pop out to second base, right? There was a lot of really weak total at-bats in this series, which isn't a great sign. And on top of that, too, they went back to not being able to capitalize on opportunities within games, right? In the 3rd game of this series, you lost by 1 run, but the Oakland Athletics had 4 errors. You had multiple chances to take this series and win these games, and you just simply could not get it done, and that is very concerning, right? Because we know what this offense has done the entire year. They've gone from the highest to highs to the lowest to lows, and I'm praying to God that this is not the start of a lowest to low, right? This is where the Boston Red Sox need to be able to come in and say, okay, enough is enough. We're not going to do these peaks and valleys type thing. We had a bad series. We can't let that spiral into a bad couple of weeks, because that's what we've seen from the Red Sox in the past, right? They have really good stretches, and then they have one bad series, and this offense sort of spirals, and it takes a couple of weeks for them to get back on track. This time, the Red Sox don't have a couple of weeks. They have about 11 days before the MLB trade deadline, and if they want to play themselves into being buyers at the MLB deadline, they cannot let the offense go silent for the next couple of weeks. It just simply cannot happen, right? Now, there are some factors that could have played into why the Red Sox offense was so quiet in Oakland the last couple of games. One of them was because Rafael Devers was sitting for the most part, and when he did come back, it looked like he had cooled off a little bit. Hopefully he can get back on track because he was a major part in the series win against the Chicago Cubs. So not having him in the lineup and having him dealing with his tightness in his hamstring is something that could be a factor going forward, and it's something that was definitely a factor in this series. In the second game of the series, the Oakland A's pitcher Medina was throwing 99 and spotting his fastball, and that made it really difficult for Red Sox hitters to get a feel for it, which is fine. It happens once in a while, but again, we've seen this pattern before with this Red Sox offense where they go from having great at-bats to working counts to getting on base, pushing each other in station to station, really kind of mangling really great pitchers in Major League Baseball, and then they go absolutely silent. This has sort of been the theme of the year, and again, it is vital right now that the Red Sox turn it around immediately going into this Mets series. You cannot fall into the pattern that you've fallen into this entire year. So yes, while the Red Sox offense has been concerning in this series, again, it's not something that I'm going to immediately freak out about, because once in a while you are going to have bad series. Once in a while you are going to have days where, hey, you're not going to be able to get a run across the plate, right? It's 162 games. But again, it's concerning because of the pattern that has developed over the course of this season so far. As for the pitching in this series, game one, we saw an opener, but the real story of this game had to be Nick Pivetta. Nick set the Red Sox record for most strikeouts in a game by a reliever. He went 6 innings, did not allow a run, and struck out 13. Since moving to the bullpen, he has a 2.31 ERA with a 0.829 whip. He has been incredible out of the bullpen, and it looks like the Red Sox may have found the exact role where Nick Pivetta can be extremely effective in, right? They sort of bounced around a little bit in terms of where he's played in his Red Sox tenure, right? He's been a starting pitcher for the most part. During that 2021 run, he was a bit of a closer, to be honest with you. Now he's become sort of your bulk middle inning reliever, and he's been very, very good. So if we're talking about highlights in this series, Nick Pivetta has to be the biggest one. In the second game of this series, again, we saw an opener. It was Joe Jakes, who did not do very well. He ended up only going 1 1/3 innings, allowing 3 earned on 4 hits. But again, Chris Murphy came in and he was really the star of the show. He did really well. He went 4 2/3 innings, allowing just 2 hits, 0 earned runs, and striking out 6. He now has a 1.69 ERA with the Red Sox, and he's really sort of asserting himself as an asset to this big league club. Again, if we're talking highlights from this series, the first 2 games in terms of their bulk inning pitchers were really a big highlight. Now, the third game saw Brayan Bello, who had one of the worst starts we've seen from Brayan Bello in a very long time. Bello only managed to get through 4 innings, allowing 6 earned runs with 3 home runs and 5 total hits. He only struck out 3 batters, and this is going to happen, right? He's still super young, and I think because of the fact that he's been so dominant over the last month and a half or so, we kind of forget that he's still a really young, new pitcher to Major League Baseball, right? This is just his first season. He's going to have these bumps in the road where he can't figure out his fastball or he can't figure out his changeup, and this is all part of the learning process. I'm not concerned one bit with Brayan Bello. It's something that he just needs to work on. It just came at an incredibly inconvenient time for the Boston Red Sox. So again, Bello had a terrible start, but I'm not worried about Bello at all. As for the bullpen in this series, it was really good, actually. We talked about Nick Pivetta. We talked about Chris Murphy. Joe Jakes was really the only one to struggle in this series out of the bullpen in a bullpen type role. He was an opener, so maybe it has to do with the fact that he was starting a game as opposed to coming out of the bullpen. But either way, outside of Joe Jakes, everyone looked pretty good. Joely Rodriguez got himself into a bit of a mess. The defense picked him up, got him out of it, and his stuff still looks pretty good. So overall, I think in terms of the bullpen, it was a pretty successful series. And in terms of the pitching in general, outside of Brayan Bello's start, you got a lot of really great performances from the Red Sox pitching staff, which is fantastic because, again, in this series, you only had one singular starter, right? Everyone else was an opener and then a bulk inning reliever. To get that sort of production from that opening type pitching is really, really fantastic. It just sort of sucks that in these last 2 series, you've seen the worst start from Bello this year and you've seen the worst start start from James Paxton this year, which is just something you simply don't need as you're trying to claw your way into being buyers at the deadline. So what does this mean in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of the season? Right now, losing to the Oakland Athletics sucks, right? They were a team that you should very easily, at the bare minimum, win a series against, and it makes it kind of feel like the ceilings are collapsing in on this Red Sox team. But are they? Not really, right? The Red Sox are still only 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. The problem with losing a series like this is that you are putting your backs up against the wall. You now have to be essentially perfect going forward throughout the rest of this time before the trade deadline, or the Red Sox fate may be decided for them. So how much does this series affect the 2023 season? It's sort of a we'll see right now, right? Because again, if they use this time to regroup and rebounce back and really handle business against the Mets at home, then you're kind of going to sort of forget about this Oakland Athletics series. However, if they do what they have done in the past so far this season, which is take these sort of brutal series losses and use them to spiral and use them to sort of fall out of control and get back towards that 500 number, then yeah, this is going to be a really important series because it could have very well decided the fate of the Red Sox. But again, that's up to them, right? How they handle this series loss is going to be extremely important to the success of the 2023 season. They either pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and get back into the ring, or they give up completely. And again, the front office has no choice but to say, hey, look, you started spiraling after the Oakland Athletics series. You couldn't pull it together against the Mets. You got slaughtered by the Braves. You barely won a series against the Giants. We don't think this is a team worth investing in. That could quite possibly happen. But again, it's all based on what the Red Sox decide to do after losing a series to the Oakland Athletics. So is this a death sentence to the Boston Red Sox? No. Not yet, but it very well could be, depending on how they are able to bounce back. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this latest Red Sox series? What did you think of the things that went wrong? What did you think of the things that went right? And how do you think this is going to impact the 2023 Red Sox season? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, we are going to be live tonight going over every Red Sox topic you could possibly ask for at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on this channel. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.